Welcome back to another episode of Local Search Tuesdays. This week I'm sharing some exciting new data from a massive research project we just completed on Google Business Profiles. We're just finishing up a ginormous research project on Google Business Profiles where we pulled over 2 million data points on over 8,500 GBPs in 3 different verticals. At the recent Ignition Automotive Conference, I shared some interesting insights in my closing keynote, and I'm sharing the entire presentation with you here today. This one's about 45 minutes long, so kick back and get ready to learn some awesome real-world SEO data on what's working and not working for car dealerships. This is how to be an automotive SEO superhero. You know who I am, because you're watching this on my video series, but for those of you who might be watching for the first time, I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Search Lab Digital. My name is Greg, and I've got a weekly video series I always like to point out. It's called Local Search Tuesdays. You can see it on our blog or follow us on social to see links every week. It's fun, quick, short tips on how to be awesome at SEO, and it helps you understand a little bit more about what's going on so you have a better opportunity to improve your visibility. And throughout the presentation, I will have links to videos that will be a little blue link in the bottom corner like that. So if you see a blue link in a video thumbnail, you know that there's more information in that video about that particular topic. And this is a fun picture of me speaking at a conference in Seattle a few years ago. I'm lucky enough to get to speak at conferences all over the world, and sometimes at these digital marketing conferences, people might be up on stage sharing really helpful information, but they're not that engaging on stage. Typically, they talk really quietly in a monotone and they stand locked behind the podium. And even worse, there's no design aesthetic to any of their slides. They're all just a plain white background with black Arial font, and they pack every slide with bullet points and just read bullet points the entire time. And we all know that's not fun to listen to. And scientists have actually proven with science that bullet points kill kittens. So today we're going to keep all of the kitties safe. And clearly there's a superhero theme here. Every time I do a presentation, I love to share my love of movies with my love of talking about SEO. So today's theme is superhero movies. We've got at least one superhero movie for every year in the last 50 years. With a total of 129 movies in the presentation, there is attribution to the side. So not only will you learn some awesome stuff about showing up better in searches and how other dealerships actually do or don't do SEO, you'll have a kick-ass list of movies to watch later. And for the nerds out there, once I get past my little jokey intro, it is all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe films in order of the Marvel Cinematic Universe timeline. So let's get this going. Why the long face? Are you spending too much time looking up at the competition that's ranking higher in search results? You don't have to have a huge brain to succeed at SEO, even though sometimes it seems like it might be a lot of magic and voodoo. It's really not. I got some hot info to share with you today. Get it? It's Ghost Rider. I'm going to show you how you can actually crush your competition and kick ass in search results. Now, I've been talking about SEO and local SEO at automotive conferences for over a decade now, and Google releases thousands of updates every year, but if you go back and look at what I talked about 10 years ago, it's pretty similar to what I'm talking about today. And I've been sharing the specific keys to the kingdom to help dealers succeed, but so many dealers and a lot of the automotive SEO vendors, they still really suck at SEO. You got to remember that SEO isn't just optimizing for Google, it's optimizing for people, because we know that people do a lot of research. They're going to shop around before they submit a lead or buy a car. So we know that people are going to see the competition whether you outrank them or not. So you've got to make sure that the user experience is great so that people will come back and convert with your dealership. But most dealerships just really aren't set up to handle SEO internally. I was actually just talking with Ryan Everson on Dealer Refresh this morning in a thread about how dealerships aren't really set up to handle SEO internally unless they've got a dealership group situation where you've got a lot of dealerships and you can pool resources, and then it's affordable to have an SEO employee or even an SEO team. But an individual dealership, it's pretty exceedingly expensive to handle it in-house. So dealerships aren't really set up to handle it themselves, and most of the SEO vendors are in the OEM approved programs, and they're not very profitable because of that. So they're not going to do SEO the right way because it's just too much effort and they don't make any money. And that's the problem with the OEM approved vendor system. It's all the same, and cookie cutter SEO doesn't work in today's world. You've got to customize what you're doing if you want to win, because every dealership is unique and every location is unique. And car dealers actually need local SEO, not the traditional SEO that most of the automotive SEO vendors provide. And we know this because if you do a search related to anything dealership oriented, Google's going to localize your search results, even if you don't specify that you're looking in the local area. I did this search from my office. I just said Ford dealer. I didn't say Ford dealer near me or nearby or Plano or Dallas or North Dallas or anything like that. I just said Ford dealer, and I automatically get a map pack, which shows that Google says this query has local intent and it's being served by the local algorithm. So dealerships should always pay attention to a study that happens every year called the Local Search Ranking Factor Study, where they take the top 40 experts in the world in local search and send out a really in-depth survey and then aggregate the answers, because nobody knows what's in Google's algorithm. But if you take all the top experts that are really doing a lot of research and working with a ton of clients and then aggregate their answers, you're going to get a pretty good feel for what matters. And you get two pie charts. One that shows you the factors that influence your visibility in the map pack or in Google Maps searches, and another that shows you your visibility below the map pack in the standard organic listings, although they're not standard, they're still localized. It's realistically your local SEO Bible. It shows you which signals matter most and what you should be doing or what your vendor should be doing to get your dealership to show up more often in searches. And if we boil Google down to the simplest concept, it's just a really advanced pattern detection program. So when you're doing SEO, you're just trying to improve your pattern so that you'll be visible in more searches. I'm not going to talk about the same stuff I've been talking about for a decade, though. I have been sitting here for 10 years in every presentation telling you exactly what to do so that you can either do it yourself or that you can hold your vendors accountable. But so many dealers don't really do anything with that. So today, I'm instead going to share new data from a big research project that we've done. Because again, none of the OEM vendors are doing this sort of thing because it's not really related to making money on the slim profit margin that they have. If you can use this data to see what other dealers are actually doing at scale and what dealers aren't doing, then it helps you be better at SEO and it helps you understand the things that really have influence. Instead of just listening to some guy tell you what you should do, the data can tell you what you should do. And then I'm going to sprinkle in some tips that will explain each of the elements and how you should optimize those elements. So the big research that we've done, it's a 2-year-long project where we've pulled data on various Google business profiles. In fact, it's over 2 million data points because we've pulled a lot of data on over 8,500 Google business profiles, and we did it last summer and we did it this summer. And it's 3 different verticals, the 3 verticals that we work with the most being car dealerships, personal injury attorneys, and cannabis dispensaries. Car dealerships, because we work with a lot of car dealerships. This is for an automotive conference. Personal injury attorneys, because they're the most aggressive with SEO. Of every vertical out there, they're the ones that get it the most and do the best at it. And then we did cannabis dispensaries, because cannabis dispensaries can't run Google ads or social ads because it's still illegal at a federal level. So if you're in one of those states that does have recreational cannabis use legalized in the state, your only option for marketing is SEO. So those were 3 different cases that I wanted to see how things changed between the verticals. So for just the car dealers, we ended up with 2,734 Google business profiles because we ran the keywords Ford dealer, Chevrolet dealer, Toyota dealer, Jeep dealer, Kia dealer, and used car dealer in those 14 cities. And then we went to the map pack, which is the top 3 results with the map. And then you can click more locations and see everything that matches the intent of that search query. And we took the top 20 for each of those search results in each of those cities. But we did get a lot of the department business profiles because car dealers are allowed to set up service and parts departments. So we took those out and we ended up with 2,125 primary dealership Google business profiles. So I'm going to be talking about 2 different things today. Factors that influence ranking and visibility in searches, and factors that don't influence your visibility, but they do influence your ability to convert customers. So let's start off with the ranking factors. Now remember, we're looking at these keywords, so we should really only see Ford dealer, Chevy dealer, Toyota dealer, Jeep dealer, Kia dealer, and used car dealer as the primary category for all of these 2,000 profiles, but there were in fact 32 different primary categories. This is worse than what it was a year ago. When we pulled this data a year ago, there were only 29 different primary categories. So things have gotten worse. And interestingly enough, the second most popular category for the primary category is just car dealer, which is the worst thing you can choose. It is the most generic category that a car dealer could select. So that's not great. It's important to choose the correct primary category because it carries more weight in the algorithm. This video explains why. But there are 10 category slots, and there are more than 10 categories that apply to sales. So realistically, every dealership should have 10 or maybe 9 categories. But almost 24% of the dealerships in the study only had a single category selected. And only about half of the dealerships had more than 5. And in fact, only 15% had all 10 categories selected. You should have 9 or 10. This video explains why and how, and gives you a list of all of the available categories for both sales and parts and service. You are allowed to set up the separate profiles. Google has actually changed the rules specifically for car dealers to let you do things that other businesses are not allowed to do. If Google's going to create rules specifically for dealerships, you should probably follow those guidelines and do the things that you're allowed to do that businesses aren't normally allowed to do. And one of those things is setting up separate department Google Business Profiles. Only 61% had that done. That's a lot of people that didn't do something that really helps them. You should have a separate department at a minimum for service and a separate one for parts. You're allowed to do service, parts, and collision. If you rent cars, you are available, or that is available as an option too. You are not allowed to set up a separate department for used cars or for finance or for car buying or we buy cars or anything like that. When you're setting these up, it's important to have the appropriate categories for each profile. Don't mix them back and forth. Your primary categories or your primary profile should only have categories related to sales. Parts should only be parts. Service should only be service. And Google released a little while ago the cars for sale, which has now been relabeled vehicles for sale since it's rolled out to RVs and power sports. It allows you to show your inventory on your Google Business Profile. Almost 20% of the dealerships still don't have this set up. And that's pretty shocking. And I don't have this in the slides because I just noticed it today. Google just added a search field above vehicles for sale to make it a little bit more user-friendly for people to find what they're looking for. So now more than ever, it's important to have that installed if you don't have it installed. Reviews also influence visibility, and the average number of reviews that we saw was 1,534 reviews per dealership. But that doesn't mean you need that many to win. The total number actually doesn't matter to Google. All that matters to Google is that you have more than the local competition. But you don't want to get too many more because it looks fake and manufactured if you're 5 or 6 times the review count of the closest competitor that you might have. And dealerships averaged a rating of just a 4.1. You don't actually want a perfect rating, but you should fall in the range of 4.4 to 4.7. And we saw an average review pace of 23-ish new reviews per month per dealership. And that's key because you want to get more reviews and stay above the competition. You want to make it easy and you want to be proactive and ask every single customer. Watch this video. It walks you through the entire reputation management process. And here's some new data that's really, really exciting. You know, when you first go to your profile and it will have some reviews that are displayed in a default sort order before you go say, I want the newest reviews or I want all the best reviews or all the worst reviews. If a review includes an uploaded photo, it stays in that default sort for a longer period of time. And if a review has a lot more text, it stays in the default sort longer, which is kind of unfortunate because typically bad reviews are much longer than good reviews. And then reviews can be upvoted with a little thumbs up. If a review has 2 or more upvotes, it will stay in the default sort longer. So we can take a really advanced leap. And if you get a bad review that shows in your default sort, you can bury it really fast. Just reach out to someone that recently left you a 5-star review and ask them to add a little bit more context so there's more of a story. And then ask them to upload a photo. And once they've done that, just have a couple of people at the dealership go give a thumbs up on the review and boom, it jumps right to the top of the list. And you do that a couple of times, you'll bury that bad review. So now people don't have the experience of landing on your profile and seeing that bad review. The average Landing page load time, how long it takes for the page that your Google business profile points to load, is 4.3 seconds. And that's typically going to be the homepage of a dealership. Now, a lot of people talk about site speed, but guess what? Google's only going to penalize you if you're in the bottom like 20-ish% of load speed. So realistically, you don't have to be super, super fast. As long as your site loads in less than about 9 or 10 seconds, you're fine. Shaving that from 9 seconds down to 5 seconds does nothing for you from an SEO standpoint. Sure, it's great for your customers, but it's not going to help you from an SEO standpoint. So don't spend too much time trying to get that to be a shorter time period. You can't really influence a lot of the technical issues on the website platforms because they're all proprietary, and a lot of your third-party plugins are going to slow things down as well. And local business schema is huge. You should have auto dealer schema on the homepage of your website. And unfortunately, some of the providers don't do that out of the box. Only 53% of the websites had the correct local business schema on them. And then when you optimize, I've always talked, and other people talk about how you need to optimize for the right keyword phrases, and you should have those phrases on the page. Only 15% of the dealerships had the keyword phrase on the landing page. That means you're searching for Ford dealer or Chevy dealer or a Toyota dealer, and you don't have that phrase on the homepage of your site when that's what you are. That's got to be a problem. You've got to remember, at a basic level, if you want to show up as a search result when somebody types in a particular keyword phrase, then you need a page of content on your website that's about that concept. And that page should be the best answer in the local area to the question that that searcher is asking. And if you're writing the best answer, you're probably going to answer some of the subsequent questions that that searcher would have after they get their initial answer. And you want to make sure that you don't have generic content. You want to make sure that your website makes it clear to everybody why you're so stinking awesome that they shouldn't consider buying from anyone other than you. If you got the same generic BS OEM content or website provider content that all the other dealers in town have, why is anybody going to care? Why is anybody going to choose to buy from you? So then once you've written all of this awesome content, you've got to optimize it so that it's easy for Google to understand what it's about. You need to use the same keyword phrase and the same city phrase in all of the various elements that the algorithm looks at. The most important element is the title tag. It carries the most weight. It shows in the little tab above where you type in your URL. And it's typically what influences the blue link text when you show up as a search result in Google. You should never put your dealership name first. In fact, you don't need your dealership name there at all because now Google shows the name of the business above the link. So you don't even need it there for branding anymore. The closer that your keyword phrase is to the beginning of the title tag, the more valuable it is. So have your important keyword phrase and your city phrase. Also, just one city. Don't put multiples. You're not going to show up in 5 cities because you listed 5 cities in your title tag. The next most important element is your H1 heading. It's the big thick headline above the text area on your page. You should only have one H1. You can have more, but that's doing it wrong. And several of the website providers do it wrong. So check your website, make sure you're doing it right, get your provider to fix it. If you're not, should have the same keyword phrase, same city phrase, be a little bit more conversational. You should have it in the page content, but we've already talked about that. If you've written the best answer in the local area that answers subsequent questions that's all about your business, you probably won't have to optimize much here. You should have those phrases in your URLs for your internal pages as well. Now, I'm not suggesting that you go change the URLs for pages that already exist. Once a page has been indexed, changing the URL is not going to matter. But as you create new content or as your provider creates new content moving forward, make sure that those keyword phrases are in those URLs for your custom pages. You should have it in the alt text of your images as well. Years ago, alt text was included because Google couldn't tell what was in an image, but now machine learning allows it to tell what's in an image, but alt text is still part of the algorithm. It's a descriptor that's behind the scenes in the image embed code. Every single page on your site should have an old school embedded image, not an image that's the background of some page element, but an actual embedded image. And it should be a descriptor of the image. It should include your keyword phrase and your city. More importantly, you need to do this to avoid ADA compliance lawsuits. ADA law says that every embedded image should have alt text so that visually impaired users can use a browser that is a screen reader and it will be the same experience for those users. You don't want to risk a lawsuit, so get that alt text on your images. You should also have those phrases in your meta description. Even though the meta description doesn't influence ranking, it does populate the couple of gray sentences beneath your blue link when you show as a search result. So you want to have those phrases there to make that description more compelling and enhance your chances of getting click-throughs to your website. And we know that content is important. So I analyzed how many words were on the landing page, which again, we're looking at primary dealership profiles, which means we're looking at the homepage of a website. You got to write the best answer in the local area, and you got to make it all about you. You got to have some content there. And we looked at it. We're not counting stop words here. So stop words are a, an, of, the. So taking all of those out, we had an average of 832 words per page. And that's not a magic number. I'm not saying you need to have that, but you got to write the best answer, and it's hard to write the best answer in only a couple of hundred words. And you should have a blog, and you should be posting to your blog regularly, because there's a massive difference between the kind of content that goes on the main section of your site and the kind of content that goes on your blog. Main website content is bottom of funnel content that's meant to generate leads. Blog content is not meant to generate leads. It's meant to generate awareness. You want to target that mid to upper funnel customer that's not quite sure what they're getting yet, but they're doing searches related to things that you could potentially sell to them. So you got to write the right kind of content to target that earlier funnel customer, because the sooner you get your website in front of someone, the more likely it is that you have a chance of getting them to convert later on down the road. In fact, if you write helpful, useful, interesting information about the local area that has nothing to do with your business, not all the time, but periodically, this helps establish you as a destination for local information. And it's pre-funnel content. Let's say you do something like, hey, our sales team wants to go out and grab barbecue every Friday. These are our 5 favorite barbecue places in Dallas, because that's where your dealership is, obviously. That builds local relevancy, and that has nothing to do with selling cars, but people are going to search for that sort of thing, and then they get eyeballs on your dealership website. And guess what? They're going to need to buy a car in the future or get service in the future. So it's really great. If you're not sure how to do this, I've got a killer little video here that walks you through 10 different primary concepts that you can use as a springboard to come up with your own content. And inbound links are important too. The average number of links from other websites pointed to a dealership website was 18,754. But that's individual links, not actual individual unique websites, which was an average of only 208. When you're looking at how many links point at your website, don't fall into the trap that most SEO agencies do. You don't want to look at your total number of links. You want to look at your total number of unique websites that are linking to you, because once you get a link from a website, there's diminishing return in getting more links from that website. So you're much better off getting 20 links from 20 different websites than 1,000 links from 20 different websites. Well, I guess that would be about the same, but you get my point. 1,000 links from 20 websites isn't as good as 50 links from 50 websites. It's about the number of websites. It's not about the number of links. And because we're targeting the local algorithm, you want to go after local links from websites in the same local area. They're very weighted in Google's local algorithm. And if you're involved in the local community, it's super easy to get local links, and most dealerships are pretty community focused, so that's a good thing. If you need some ideas for how to get some local links, again, I got a really killer video that walks you through a bunch of concepts that you can use and tactics that will help you acquire local links. But there is a big difference between the number of links and the number of linking sites. So I decided to look that up and found some really fun stuff. AutoNation, you probably ought to give someone like us a call to help with your SEO, because AutoNation's paying attention to how many links, not how many websites. The biggest deficit we saw was 3.7 million. There was literally a difference of 3.7 million. So we found a site that had 3,776,260 links, but that was only from 630 websites or 631 websites. So they're thinking, wow, this is great. We've got 3 million links, but not really. You've got 600 sites linking to you, and that's not actually that many. So those were all the ranking factors. Let's talk a little bit about conversion factors. We always talk about how you need to have UTM tracking on your website links, because Google Analytics attribution is broken, and a lot of traffic, especially mobile traffic, gets reported as direct instead of organic. So you should use UTM tracking, but only about half of the dealerships are doing that, even though a lot of us have been talking about doing this for years. So make sure you include it. This video walks you through how to do it, and not just your website link, but your appointments link or your products and services link, or even the links in your Google posts. And don't forget that you want good attribution to make better marketing decisions. So make sure it's on all of those links. And then there's a questions and answers widget. We see an average of 9 questions per dealership in the questions and answers widget. The questions and answers widget allows anybody to ask your dealership a question, and any random a-hole can answer it for you, and that should terrify you. Customers actually think that it's chat and that there's somebody on the other end waiting to answer that question, but it's actually a community discussion widget. So it's meant to have a question that a lot of different people can offer answers to. But you can load your own questions. Nobody's going to go to an FAQ page on your site and read through 50 questions to see if the similar question is there and answered, but they will go here to ask their question. So set up a pre-site FAQ. Ask all of the common questions and then answer those questions. Because if someone comes in and starts to type in a question there, and a similar question has been asked and answered in the past, Google will automatically answer that question as it's being typed in. That's an amazing pre-site experience and makes it much more likely that that person's going to convert at your dealership. And then because there are multiple answers to a question, the answer that has the most thumbs up or the most upvotes is the one that's displayed as the primary answer to the question. So you should be making sure that your dealership owner answer is the primary answer to every question that has been asked to your dealership. And yeah, it's okay if a question's 2 or 3 years old, you can still go in and answer that question and upvote it now. Not even 20% of the questions had a primary owner answer. And this is like almost 17,000 questions in total when we added them all up. Questions can get multiple answers, and it is based on the upvote, so you've got to pay attention. And Google posts are huge too. We only saw an average of 2.5 Google posts per month. That's lower than last year. Last year it was almost 4 a month. It was almost weekly, but it's slowed down. I did a Whiteboard Friday episode for Moz, which is a long-running, very famous video series by an SEO tool company that's all about Google posts. You can go watch the video there. It explains in pretty intricate detail for about 13.5 minutes how to be successful with posts. Most importantly, though, you need to treat them like what they are. They are free advertisements that show on your profile. Do not treat them like social media. They are not social media. So don't share delivery photos. Doesn't work. Don't create a Google post for a specific vehicle because they're visible for 6 months. And if you put something up for a specific vehicle and it's sold next week, that's still going to show for another 6 months. Plus, you don't want to advertise for a specific vehicle when you don't even know what that customer's intent is. It's their first impression. You don't even know why they're looking at your dealership. But the key to success overall with posts is optimizing the thumbnail, because Google will automatically crop to a smaller version of the image and just show the first few lines of text. And if that's not compelling, nobody's going to click on it to see the actual content of the post. But the image cropping is really wonky and inconsistent. Half the time, like half your car is going to get cropped out or your text will get cropped out and it's not readable. So to give you better control over what shows up, since you can't dictate what the crop is, we created a Photoshop template. You can download it at that link right there. And it looks like this. Anything that's in the white grid is considered safe. It is going to show in the thumbnail, and then everything outside of that will appear once they see the full version of the post. So you could do some really cool stuff with like your phone number or web address down there in that bottom not visible area if you want to be really advanced. Now, we've also got a scoring matrix that we use at 20 groups. I speak at a ton of 20 groups. And we also use it to score clients that might be working with us or people at conferences that say, hey, I'd like to see what my information looks like. So I went through and collected all of the information from 920 dealerships and analyzed all of the scores. These are all the dealerships that we've scored with the current version of the sheet, which we started using at the beginning of 2022. It's basically a mini SEO audit, and it looks at the 4 areas that influence organic visibility, which is the content on your site and how it's optimized, the links pointed at your website, your Google business profile and how it's optimized, and your reviews on Google and Yelp and how you respond to those reviews. The scores of the areas are weighted to approximate the importance of each area to Google's algorithm. So the on-site score is worth a maximum point value of 44 points. The inbound link score is worth a maximum point value of 10 points. Your Google business profile can score you up to 32 points, and your reviews can score you up to 14 points. That gives you a total of 100 between all of those areas. It's important to point out that this matrix scores on tactics, not on strategy. And most people use those terms interchangeably, but there's an important distinction. Strategy is which direction are you going? And tactics are which steps do you take to get there? The reason we keep it at basic tactics, this is meant to be a helpful tool at 20 groups. This is not a sales tool. And if this was too much on the strategy side, which would be more of a sales tool, and I'm at a 20 group and that dealer takes it back to their in-house team or to their current vendor, then it would be very easy for that in-house team member or vendor to say, oh, that's Search Labs strategy for SEO. They don't know your store. They don't know your area. We've been working with you forever. You can ignore that. There's a lot of different ways to do SEO. Just don't pay attention. But when it's basic tactics that anyone that knows SEO would agree, yeah, these are the things you should probably do, then that makes it more helpful for everyone to uncover opportunities or uncover things that maybe you're paying vendors to do and they're not living up to their side of the bargain. So the average scores, pretty bad. A 14.9 out of a possible 100 points. Not great. It's pretty impossible to get a perfect score, but the highest score that we've seen was a Volkswagen dealer in California with an 81.59. That's a really great score. Honestly, if you're doing good SEO, you should be in the mid 60s to mid 80s. But the lowest score we saw was also California, and it was a Toyota dealership that scored a negative 71.5, because there are things that if you do it right, you get points. If you do it wrong, you just don't get points. But there are things that if you're doing it incorrectly, it's either possible or even likely that that particular element is hurting your visibility in search results. And in those cases, we will deduct points. And so this dealership was really struggling, and they were paying thousands of dollars a month for SEO. So it was pretty frustrating for them. So overall average score, just a 14.9 out of 100. If we're going to do high school math, like what grade would you get on your test? That's a 14.9%. The average score for the on-site section is just 1.2 out of 44 points. That's just a 2.7%. The average score for links is 1.3 out of 10. Simple math there. That's 13%. The average score for the Google Business Profile section was an 8 out of a possible 32. That's a 25%. So better, but still not good. And then the average score for reviews was 4.4 out of 14, even higher at a 31.4%. So if we look at the high school math, high school test grade percentages, it really uncovers where most dealerships are missing the most basic SEO, and that's on site. On site is worth 44 points. It's almost half of the matrix score of the possible 100 points. The content on your site and how it's optimized is the most important element of SEO, yet it's the thing that dealerships consistently score the worst on. And also, if you're paying for a vendor, typically that's what the vendor's doing. They're doing content on your website. They're not doing your Google Business Profile or your reviews. So the thing that you're paying for is the thing that you're doing the worst. If you'd like us to score your site, we would be happy to do so. All you have to do is pull out your phone, point it at the QR code. It's going to take you to a form and let you give the URLs to me. I'm not going to try to sell you anything. We want more data. I'd like to have as much data as possible when I go into NADA and Digital Dealer next year and other conferences like Ignition, so that we can share even more detailed information. So I'd like to get more data. You'd like to get some help. So, hey, let's partner up on that. Shoot me your URLs. I'll score them. We'll set up a little call. I'll explain your scores and where you've got room for improvement. So if you customize your SEO strategy, it improves your pattern. You're going to show up better in search results. But realize that it's not quick. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. The things that you're doing today are influencing your visibility a couple of months down the road. So you've got to give it time to work. You should expect to start to see traction from your SEO efforts at around 6 to 8 months. And then you really see the big results at 12 to 14 months. So thanks so much for sitting through that absolute fire hose of data and strategy and tactics. Hopefully now you won't feel so down and depressed about SEO because you got so many hot tips. And no, I'm not using the same joke again. This is Ghostwriter 2, so it's totally allowed. Your dealership will no longer be the underdog in search results, and everyone will be super happy. So that was how to be an automotive SEO superhero. If you've got questions, you can pop me an email at that email address. I've got an open email policy. I will always answer questions. I won't try to sell you stuff. I do travel a lot though, and I'm traveling a lot for the next few months. So it may take me a bit to get back to you, but I will get back to you. And if you'd like a copy of the slides, let me know. I'd be happy to slide them your way. And as always, there is a list of all of the movies at the end by order of release date. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for sticking around to watch the whole presentation. That's definitely all the time we've got left for this week's episode, so you know what that means. Put your hand on the screen right here. We totally just high-fived because you learned something awesome. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week for another episode of Local Search Tuesdays.